This is Unit 6, Argumentative Speech. I'd like to start off with a story about a 60-year-old woman named Marjorie Klein. Miss Klein was a wife, grandmother, family member shopping in a store, and she came across a wet spill hazard in the store, caused her to slip and fall, and when she fell, she injured the front part of her face and suffered a traumatic brain injury as a result of this fall. The medical bills exceeded $350,000 for her treatment, and by the time she was able to recover anything financially, she had to file for bankruptcy. The legal process took approximately 4 years to resolve, and she was eventually awarded $450,000 from settlement, and that, of course, did not go a long ways when you consider the attorney fees and expert fees, and then the $350,000 in medical bills left her with a very small amount to recover on, not to mention the bankruptcy that had occurred. So, one might think that she made out when she actually lost her entire worth and savings for her lifetime of work prior to the fall happening, and she still resides today living in conditions that were far, far less than what she probably should have maintained as a person who had been productive up until that moment. My argument today is that falls are not fake, and falls are a real problem in the United States. And the problem we face in our society is that the falls that we tend to see about in the news and in the media hyping up the problem with slip and falls is that slip and falls are a fake or fraudulent type scheme, and the industry faces this dilemma, and those are unfortunately the ones we always hear about on the news, but we don't hear about the 22,000 falls that happen daily in the media. And imagine if we did. Imagine if the media actually portrayed 22,000 falls minus the ones that were fraudulent to us on the news. I've actually broke that down, where if that was the case, we would be looking at every 15 minutes a slip and fall being reported to us on the news throughout the day on a 24-hour cycle, just to put it in perspective. So those are a heck of a lot of falls. So anyway, many times we don't take falls seriously. When we see people and we hear about slip and falls, we think that the falls that are done are in a scheme type thing and versus a reality or a serious matter that we have in our society. And if we were to search Google or YouTube or any of the other type medias, we would find out that what is on a computer or what comes up on the media is in fact repeated media of fake slip and falls. Just today when I Googled slip and falls, for example, the same fake falls came up a multitude of times. There was like more than 20 falls for the same two falls I'm actually going to show you as visual aids today to enhance my point. But there's not fall after fall after fall in an individual way. There's actually the same fall repeatedly in the context of slip and fall searches, and it's just simply different media outlets portraying the same slip and fall event that was found to be fake versus having a fake fall, a multitude of fake instances, if that makes sense. In fact, I think the reason that people think falls are fake versus factual is that that's what they're only seeing or only hearing about is the media portraying various moments of scams repeatedly on the news or on CNN or any of the big news outlets versus actually doing stories on tragic events and how those events unfolded. So the reality is that falls are not fake. And so I'm going to show you some evidence of this, of both empirical and through video analysis. And if you hang with me here, I'm going to adjust the camera so I can do just that. So the first exhibit I have to take a look at here is a book called Falls Aren't Funny. And in this book, the author highlights the fact that false or fake slip and fall claims only represent 3% of overall claims. So the notion that slip and falls are fake and very frequent is actually a false premise and a lie to the American public. Again, inflated by media coverage over situations to get attention and to cry foul versus actual reporting of real events that hurt people. The next exhibit I have is from a book called Slip, Trip, and Fall Prevention. This is a leading industry book that teaches ways to prevent losses from slip and falls. And this author actually recognizes that while the problem is certainly substantial, and in fact it says it's an easy way to make $50,000, he also turns around and promotes the fact that many times a store or a business can actually prevent people from turning in a fraudulent claim, or when they do turn in a fraudulent claim, they are usually caught on video, and the video serves as certainly a way to deter that type of thing from happening. And the last exhibit I have is a slip and fall study, and you might not be able to see that, so I'm going to adjust it a little bit, but the study basically shows where the 36 months of data were collected from grocery stores, and another 24 months, of data were collected from various malls across the United States. And what this study actually showed is that this was a root cause analysis study. But interestingly enough, in all the months of collected data over 3 or 4 year period, the amount of slip and fall claims that were fake versus not was 0. So out of all the data collected for this study, not one claim that was observed or taken accounted for within that study turned out to be a fake claim. So all of them were real claims, which is certainly antithetical to the notion that falls are fake versus real. So let's look at the difference between a fake fall and a real fall, because obviously we would want to know, right, how do you tell what's real and what's not real? And so there's actually a way to do that. This next, I'm going to show you a video here coming up that will show you an actual couple examples of fake falls, and then we'll get into an analysis of what a real fall looks like. So this is a fake fall. So we can tell it's a fake fall because right here you can see the person kind of squatted down, and there'll be a point here that I want you to take a look at, and I'm going to play this a couple of times for you. But you can see there's actually no slippage happening from the shoes, between the shoes and the floor tile itself. There's a point here that we look for slippage when we're looking at these type of things and we're forming an analysis. And obviously this is a fake fall because there's just no slipping happening. The person lays down. So this is a similar example where we have a person who has thrown ice on the floor. You can see the little ice pieces. And again, we're going to look at the feet when we try to form an analysis on this video and look at it. We're looking to see the slippage. There's no slippage. There's a squat down and lay down, but there's no slippage from the foot to the floor. So now we have an example of an actual slip and fall, and you'll be able to tell instantly the major differences between the actual fall and what you just saw as examples. And so here we have the surprise and the feet. You can see the feet fly up in the air, and this will play 2 more times here for you, so don't worry about it if you didn't catch it the first time. But we'll watch to see where the feet go, and the feet slip out from under the individual and actually up into the air. That's from the momentum of the person's gait as they're walking. And this is how you would take a look at a fall and determine whether or not this was a fake injury or a planned event versus a real event. And this obviously is a real event. It's very easy to tell it's a real event. This next example, you're going to see the same thing. It's going to be a little harder to see because it's up in the corner, but this person is slipping out. You can see the feet slip out and go out from underneath him. And then one more time in slow motion. And again, you see the feet fly up in the air, and that is certainly an indication of a fake fall. And this final example is in a hotel lobby. This is not a feet flying up in the air type example, but it is a skid example where someone drops their knees. And you just saw the individual walk from the left to the center of the screen almost, where he landed on his knee. This particular individual I actually interviewed, And when he fell, I asked him what he was doing here, and he said, I grabbed my kneecap and laid back because I knew I had broke my kneecap. And I just kind of quivered with that because that sounded very, very painful. So you can actually see the slip. You can see where he slips forward, lands on his rear knee, and then goes down. So there are real consequences for this type of thing happening, and this is why this is so serious. This is why we need to look at falls as a real thing versus a fake thing in society, because consequences matter and people matter, and there are huge, devastating injuries as a result of these falls. And so these next few illustrations are some realities of slip and falls. And here we have, this is actually the person I told you the story of Miss Klein at the beginning of my presentation, and these are the injuries she sustained from when she fell. She hit her eye socket, she crushed her eye socket, she had to have surgery, she hurt her legs or her thighs or whatnot. This is a person's kneecap, a picture of their kneecap and leg injury from a slip and fall. And this is another person's injuries where she fell and the slip caused her to fall into some bathroom stalls. And you can see she has stitches and a broken nose and various injuries. And so that is the exhibits I have for you today for my speech. And now if you'll bear with me, I'm going to adjust the camera again so we can finish this presentation. So the exhibits that I was able to show you today are clear that falls are both devastating. The falls are dramatic, and there are severe consequences to those falls, and they hurt people every day. Falls are not fake; they are real concerns. There are fake falls. Obviously, I'm not here to try and persuade anybody that fake falls don't happen or that there's not a criminal element involved. But the reality is, and my exhibits demonstrate that falls are a real problem, and that 97% of the time they're a real thing versus 3% of the time they're not a real thing. Falls have devastating consequences. The pictures that I showed today illustrated the consequences just in a very short period of time with 2 or 3 people. You can see obviously that the injuries are very, very painful. They're very, very real, and that we should take note as a society that we have a problem when it comes to that type of thing. And I hope you'll consider my argument that falls are not fake, falls are real, and I thank you for your attention to this presentation.